Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. All right, guys, welcome back. So I have a disclaimer to give to start. I'm having a hard time doing videos because I have so much shit going on upstairs that it's whenever I start talking, my mind starts going off in a million different directions. And I'm having a hard time doing videos in all reality. And it kind of stems back from like a couple weeks ago. A lot of things started to make sense. I felt like I had maybe 90% of the puzzle put together. And I think I got most of what I need at this point. And so my mind's just going in so many different directions that it's hard to do a video. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to be talking about ICP as the application layer, why that makes sense from a technical perspective in this video, because I've been getting some questions over the last week or two. And it sounds like there's some people that are relatively newer in the ICP space. They can tell that it's different from other things, but maybe they can't tell every single way in which it's different, and how all this could come together might not be 100% clear. I just want to simplify this the best that I can. And because the crypto space is made overly confusing for no reason, and this is a lot easier to understand than you probably think. All right. If you're a non-technical person. All right. But before I get started, some other disclaimers. Try not to lose sight of the bigger picture. This is really for the entire crowd, especially a crowd that's been here for a while. Before too long, there's going to be too much shit happening to even keep up with things that you're not interested in. Just times what you see right now by like 10 or 20. And at that point, you're not even going to be able to keep up with everything. All right. So, yeah. And the first few years, if you just think about what ICP is trying to do here, it's a ground up build out of the web on chain. And so the first few years are going to be the most frustrating, going to be the most growing pains. The end user products are going to be a little clunky, right? And that's just the nature of early stage technology and software solutions. All right. But we're moving into the next phase. All right. So don't lose sight of the bigger picture. And there have been things that have happened that, like maybe I disagree with in the ecosystem or that I don't like. But when I compare that to the bigger opportunity here, it's a drop in the ocean. All right. And yeah, it's just imagine a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, like all this starts getting built out. And there's going to be so much going on to where like you don't even have time to stuff that has been like things that have been issues over the last year or 2 years. There's just going to be so much going on in the future where you're not even going to have time to look into stuff like that. All right. Okay. And I think that people will see what they need to see over the next 2 years. I think they'll see over the next 12 months. But for people who still have like doubts and reservations, which is perfectly normal, I think you'll see what you need to see over the next 1 to 2 years. And for newer people, there's a lot of content creators in the space that are going to have their opinions about this and that and the third of relating to ICP. And I'm going to have to narrow down my focus at some point. Like I can't, if I could clone myself and just go lay waste to all of these idiots, I would, but I can't. And so I'm going to have to kind of like conserve energy and narrow my focus at some point. But, and I don't consider anybody that gives a critical take on ICP to be an idiot. I just, there's, some people just haven't looked into it. But there are a lot of content creators that will just give their opinion as fact. And the conversation is just going to move by these people. I don't know what else to say. It's like they're going to be continuing to just give their opinion like there's any, like it matters. And then the conversation is just going to move past them. So, yeah. And guys, I don't hear any other, like people can have all the opinions they want. I don't hear any big picture thesis on how we're getting to Web3. The only thesis I hear is in the ICP space, right? And it's not just like my opinion or my outlook. All right. Like a lot of this has been crowdsourced. I didn't create this diagram. Eric did, who's got over a decade's experience as a systems architect. And I've asked the technical community tons of questions over the last few years. And we might not agree on 100% of everything with timeline or certain use cases and things of that nature. But for the most part, generally, we see the same thing on the horizon. And if I was just up here talking out of my ass, I would get checked because I feel very strong saying that ICP has the largest technical community in crypto. I think by a pretty wide margin. Just community members, not even people who are building on ICP. Yeah. Okay. So first, if you're new, understanding the hybrid model and the inherent problems with the hybrid model is very, very, very important. And don't think because you haven't heard this conversation before in other circles in crypto that it's not important. Design and architecture are extremely important when it comes to any type of software systems at scale. And if most of these content creators knew what they were talking about, they would have explained that a long time ago to their audience. That was one of the first places I looked. All right. Now, the big issue with the hybrid model is that it's just Web 2. It inherits all the problems of Web 2 because it's on Web 2. All right. And really what this is Web 2, and you're adding a new age database distributed ledger system that can be used as a payment system and asset transfer database ledger, however you want to refer to it. But it's Web 2 plus that. All right. So all the issues with Web 2 still exist on this model. That's the problem. And this is not delivering on the promises of Web 3. Read, write, own. You can't own your own data on this model. And big tech can pretty much dictate to the user or to the founder whatever they want, right? So it's not a Web 3 model. Also, there's a lot of issues with cybersecurity and IT. Web3 projects are trying to launch in this. It's like we're launching in a war zone. Cybercrime's going parabolic, and you're launching as a Web3 startup, which are already increased targets for hacks because of the digital asset element to it. There's a lot of honeypots with these protocols. That wasn't a thing back before digital assets for the most part. It's a different element that's been added that make them even higher targets for hacks, I would argue. And we've seen tons of those over the last few years, right? So they could not only offload all of that, offload those expenses, they could also just offload all that liability. Also, they can use ICP's governance framework on this model. What we're doing is we're comparing, contrasting the model, all right? Now, there are certain things that supersede other things. And that's a very important concept to understand about this whole thing too, is that this conversation I'm having about design and architecture is going to supersede a lot of other conversations people are having about other things that are less of significance, right? Because everything on top of this that's built out from this is all going to either have inherent properties of Web 2 or the inherent properties of ICP, a full stack solution, end-to-end on chain. All right. So that's just important to wrap your mind around that. The network effects. We'll actually go back to governance really quick because we've seen projects in the space call themselves DAOs, right? And you can call yourself a DAO all you want. If you're running on big tech infrastructure, and I just put Uniswap right here, I don't think Uniswap uses AWS. I just use it as an example. All right. I don't know exactly who they use, but so with the governance framework, we've seen projects in the space call themselves DAOs, but big tech ultimately dictates you can vote on whatever you want to. But if big tech tells you you have to do this or we're shutting you down, you don't have any options, right? And up until ICP, there really hasn't been any options outside of big tech, outside of that entire infrastructure apparatus. But on top of that too, the DAO could vote on certain things, and the founders, developers just decide to arbitrarily do something else. So you need an end-to-end on-chain governance model in place, the network and at the application level, which ICP has. All right. So that's another big selling point when you're comparing both models, because the things that I'm going over are going to apply to every single project. That's what I'm saying, that certain conversations supersede other conversations. This conversation is going to supersede most of the other conversations happening in the space, because we're talking about the foundational level, all right? And network effects. So for somebody like Uniswap or Aave or some type of DeFi protocol on Ethereum, let's move to this slide right here. So they launched their token on Ethereum, but use some type of big tech infrastructure for everything else, okay? So why would a Uniswap benefit from the network effects of ICP? Like, doesn't Ethereum have all the network effects because all the users and liquidity and so on and so forth? Okay, what I'm referring to about network effects here is by Uniswap plugging into the ICP ecosystem and using canister technology, they're going to open themselves up to every single other ecosystem that ICP connects to. And ICP can do that without third-party middleware. And that's a very big deal because if Ethereum wants to have any type of interoperability with Bitcoin, you're going to have to use third-party middleware, right? And this is where chain key comes in. This is the superpower of chain key, being able to do all this without third-party middleware. It just takes some time with the network level integrations, as we've seen with Ethereum and as we saw with Bitcoin. But after it's in, and everything that's built on top of it, it's like the core foundation is strong, all right? But if a Uniswap were to plug into the ICP ecosystem and to start using canisters, they would open themselves up to so many other ecosystems without taking on that additional risk of the third-party bridges and everything else, okay? So that's what I mean by network effects. AI-powered user-owned apps, wallets, the ability to have AI build out your application for you, help manage it, audit everything. You can plug in Bitcoin as opposed to Ethereum here. This is a perfect solution for Bitcoin companies. Perfect. They can pretty much outsource everything to AI smart contracts. They don't have to worry about cybersecurity and IT. Maybe a decent amount of the development process can be taken out because of large language models. Large language models can also do the auditing. You're on an end-to-end on-chain model. There's only one you could call ICP a counterparty here, but a counterparty with a full stack end-to-end on-chain model, governance at the network level, governance at the application level. It's not going to, you're not going to get a solution, a all-encompassing solution that gives you only one counterparty with a fully end-to-end on-chain model with governance at the network. And yet you're not going to find that anywhere else for Bitcoin companies. This is the least amount of counterparty risk that Bitcoin companies are going to be able to find. All right. Anything else that they try to do, they're going to be on this, 4, 5, 6, 7 different technologies just to create one application. And that's what we've been saying. That's what the hybrid model breeds, is a bunch of clunky software solutions that need 6 different technologies just to create one product. And anytime you have a setup like that, it's going to be issue scaling. So AI-powered user-owned apps, wallets, the ability to have AI build out your application, help manage it, everything, audit it, but even just for something like Uniswap, right? Uniswap using canister technology, putting Uniswap in a canister, being able to have a large language model embedded, right? For different things, maybe like auditing. So you get rid of cybersecurity and IT concerns. You get rid of those costs. You put a end-to-end governance model in place. You connect yourself to every single other ecosystem. You can now have artificial intelligence embedded in your solution to start automating a lot of things that you're currently paying developers for. And you actually own it. If you're the founder, you own it. You're not at the mercy of big tech anymore. You're on an open public network that has governance at the network and the application level. So from a technical perspective, guys, that's what I'm saying, that like we actually have a thesis. I can make a technical case for why this makes sense. And I understand the general things that would need to happen in order to get certain integrations done at the network level with other networks, right? I understand the capabilities that canisters and ICP has. Yeah. So this model makes a million times more sense than the hybrid model. And the hybrid model, in my opinion, is not going to last but so much longer for retail-based solutions. And, I posted something, and I should have actually got that for this video, but I posted something maybe like 6 months ago. It was on Twitter. But I said that I thought the hybrid model for retail-based solutions was a bluff, was 100% a bluff, that it wasn't going to stay that way, and that it wasn't, the plan was never to roll with that model for retail-based solutions. And I think we're going to see that play out over the next few years. Yeah, I really do. Okay, but start being able to conceptualize this whole thing and understand that the canister The application is inside the canister. All right. So start trying to like form your own mental model of what this would look like. And I put some applications from Ethereum. I got like Uniswap on here, Aave. I got Singularity Net, NFT Loteria, right? DGDG. I tried to put some ICP stuff on here, right? But I'm now going to catch shit because I didn't, I only put some and not others, right? Tonic, Elna, Singularity Net, Open Chat plug. But start thinking, start like being able to form your own mental models here. And just understand that the user, this would essentially be a user profile. So like your own canister, your own user profile, a canister you own and control. You start being able to conceptualize what this would look like. Because when you do it, this takes all the technical jargon out of it. All right. And it takes all the confusing terminology and everything. It just removes that from the equation. But then similar to how Chainlink is viewed as a thing that connects everything, I would start looking at ICP a similar way, just kind of being layered over top of everything as the application layer itself. And you can settle back to the main chain, and you're going to have all of these assets, in my opinion, on the NNS dashboard. Just think of the NNS dashboard as the portal for the new web, right? This is the portal that you're going to see when you log into the new web. And it's going to have all the proposals and everything right there on the left side. And there's going to be an insane amount of proposals going on all over the ICP ecosystem. It's going to be crazy. Just keeping up with governance alone is going to be insane. Yeah. But start forming your own mental models. And the degree of seamless interaction here, application to application, user application, this is going to be so seamless, in my opinion. And it's all customizable. That's the big thing here, is that because canisters have that additional layer of programmability, everything can be customized to the user's wants and needs. Whether it's a user profile, whether it's your website, whether it's some type of DeFi application, social media application, AI marketplace, NFT Loteria, all of these things can be customized to the owners however they want it. All right? Because it's user owned and controlled on an open public network. So the fact that these things are going to be possible in ICP, guys, there are no applications on these other networks, okay? There are no applications on these other networks. When they say on XYZ network, what they're saying is that they put their token on that network. But for almost everything else, 99% of the computation is happening on big tech cloud, all right? So that's what they mean by application on their network. And so there are no applications on these networks. On ICP, there will be large language models embedded into your user profile that will build you an application. Think about how insane that is, how big of a gap that is. That's what we're talking about. And it's not that's necessarily that big of a gap, because ICP is just, they set out to do different things, okay? Dominic and the team at DFINITY set out with a different mission. They were solving for different problems, all right? Creating an entirely different solution. And as soon as we can get to the point to where we're no longer having these conversations with people in the crypto space about, oh no, this is better than ICP. It's like ICP is doing its own thing. And to date, there hasn't been anything else shown up that's comparable. So, and we're about to enter into the phase where this starts moving very fast. So if there is something that's going to compete with ICP, it better show up very, very soon. That's all I had to say about that. And I originally said at the beginning of this year, I said, if it doesn't show up by the end of this year, it's not going to catch it. That was before I understood everything with artificial intelligence, the extent, right? That was before I got that. So I wholeheartedly stand by that now. I mean, I think if it's not out now, I just don't think they're going to, I don't think they're going to be able to catch up. I really don't. And when I say that, and if you're like relatively newer, you're like, oh, well, I'm looking at this. Get this out of your mind where you look at the application level to like what you see at the application level does not tell you the story of the value of the value is in the network itself all the infrastructure, the protocol, how everything was designed, the embedded system architecture, how they have WebAssembly tied into all this, that there's, it's all the things that you don't see on your phone when you're looking through the user interface. All right. All of those things were going to be clunky in the first few years, especially considering, you got to think about this, guys. DFINITY is the largest R&D team in the blockchain space, right? It's possible that the largest R&D team in the blockchain space, a bunch of highly credentialed individuals, it's possible that they knew the general timeline on artificial intelligence, and then they knew that more advanced large language models were going to be coming out over the next couple of years, and they were more so just getting the framework and the infrastructure in place in order to be able to roll out AI to where AI could start creating a lot of these end user products and making the user experience a lot more seamless and automate a lot of the end user experience. So it's possible that the largest R&D team in the blockchain space in the world has been working on this for over 10 years, generally understood where AI was with its progress, and they had a plan for all of this. So I think that you're just going to start to see this take off over the next couple of years. So if you still have concerns sitting here today, that's fine. That's understandable. I think you'll see what you need to see. And I would just recommend consuming yourself in research. Scrolling through Twitter is not really consuming yourself in research, okay? And a lot of times what will happen is at different points in time when sentiment is going like this, right? People will make a big thing out of something that's not really a big thing. All right. And that's when you kind of start to like lose sight of the fact that this is the biggest opportunity ever of all time that I've seen in my lifetime. Don't screw this up. All right. Don't screw this up. And everything's going to change. Guys, they're tackling every single $1 trillion market. Think of every single $1 trillion market that you possibly can. ICP is going after. This is going to get so crazy. This is going to get so insane. And so don't let temporary frustrations or things happening in the ecosystem or some FUD from some dumb influencer or whatever, like, don't lose sight of the big picture here, guys. And don't lose sight of the big picture. I'll try to get my shit together so I can actually, have a normal video. But it stems from like pure, maybe it's overwhelm, it's excitement. I don't even know how to describe it. But I mean, there were a couple nights last week where I didn't even sleep. And this is going to be insane. And I hope that anybody who watches this video, I just hope that you make it to that point. I just hope you make it to that point. I really do. And I think that if you stick around for the next 2 years, you will. So that's all I have for this video. And start trying to make sense of this. Like, start consuming yourself in research. You don't understand something, learn, ask, guys, ask artificial intelligence. Ask ChatGPT, explain this to me like I'm an idiot. Explain this to me in layman's terms. And software systems, especially if you're looking at big picture, if you're looking at the way that I look at things, forming your own like diagrams and things, it kind of helps you conceptualize. When you're just listening to somebody and they're throwing out technical jargon and there's nothing that you can actually see, it's very hard to make sense of software systems like this and what people are saying. It doesn't click, or at least it didn't for me. And I found that out in sales. I was on some calls and things just weren't making sense. But then one of the solutions architects started diagramming everything, and I was like, oh shit, that makes total sense. And so now that's how I have to do my videos. All right. But that's it. I don't know. I'm just going to post it. Yeah, I'm just going to post it. That's all I have. Not financial advice. I'll get more out soon, guys. I'm just got a lot going on upstairs. But that's it. Take care. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.